I'm literally gonna wait for you. And I see you're gonna be like, nah, I'm not gonna like. I'm just keep watching.
Just subscribe.
And you think the clip gonna cut right here, but it's not because I'm still waiting for you to click that like button, and the subscribe, and the post notification button.
So this initially was supposed to be a short, but I kind of found out the hard way that, well, I just couldn't put out all of my ideas in a short at that moment, so I just decided that I'll just do a short video. And of course this is not the normal situation, but I just decided that I just had this thought in my head, so I just had to get it out. So I have to of course give you a few warnings in that there will be manga spoilers and anime spoilers, but I'll try to keep it as low as possible. So basically, after watching season 2 and Yuta being introduced, I kind of started thinking about something in that if you've been around for a bit, there's been this running joke that basically Jujutsu Kaisen doesn't have a really solid main character, in that some people think Yuji isn't the main character and actually it's Gojo, or it could be Yuta, or it could be Megumi, or it could be literally Sukuna at this point based on how powerful he is. But after really thinking about it, I kinda thought about something, and this is pure speculation. I'm just thinking, right? It's been well documented that I think that Gojo is clearly delusional in terms of his ideologies about the power system and who will eventually be able to equal him, which seems like a pretty tall task based on what happened in season 2, but it actually got me thinking in that what if he's not as crazy as I thought he is? In that, well, ultimately we just saw in season 2, and some people in the manga know, that Sukuna is pretty powerful. Powerful to the point that he seems like a force that can't be defeated. Because, well, when him and Gojo met up, I don't want to spoil too much, but yeah, it didn't go so well for Gojo. And that thought kind of had me thinking, in that, well, think about it. Initially when Gojo was born, it was said that the curses had to adapt to him, in that basically Gojo was so powerful that curses had to get more powerful to kind of balance the forces, if you kind of get what I'm saying. Now, this had me thinking about what if it was the reverse, in that Gojo is a good force, in that he's a powerful being who is basically there to stop curses. And now thinking about it, Sukuna is basically that, but in an evil version, in that he's gonna force sorcerers to get more powerful. And if you've kind of noticed what's been happening, a lot of the clan members who were seen as extremely powerful were easily finished by newer curses, because they're getting closer to Gojo even though they're nowhere near him. They've adapted to the point that they're getting stronger, and now sorcerers who were deemed as legendary, such as the Zenin clan member who literally got cooked by Jogo, it's kind of showing that curses are getting super strong, right? But then if you think about what happened in season 2, a lot of the characters who were deemed as super powerful were outed, in that they were strong at one point, but they're not up to standard with these newer curses. And with what Sukuna is doing, it's kind of forcing everybody to get stronger, in that, well, if you look at it, initially, because of Gojo's powerful nature, this whole ideology of clans was kind of skewed, because they would mention other clans like the Zenin clan, but overall, because of how powerful Gojo is, it was just like, if Gojo can't help us, then all of the other clans couldn't do anything. And also, it's kind of evident in the fact that Gojo can do anything he wants because he's so powerful. And now this kind of had me thinking that some of the characters who are remaining, like Yuji, like Yuta, like Gojo himself, even characters like Maki or Megumi, what if this whole situation that's happening is actually building a more powerful clan? In that, well, Gojo's wish is that he finds people who will equal him or better him in terms of power. Now, some of these characters belong to very powerful families, such as the Zenin clan, of which now Maki within the manga has been stated to borderline be the next Toji, who it's pretty clear was super powerful in his prime. So for Maki to get to that point at an early stage and possibly surpass Toji, it shows that she could be the clan leader, and the power gap has went substantially way higher. It could be Megumi, who also has super powerful abilities that outclass a lot of some of the members within the Zenin clan. Same thing could be for Yuji, in that he could start his own clan or just be the beginning of a new clan, as well as Yuta. So it's gonna get to a point where Sukuna pushes everybody to get so powerful that ultimately the balance of powers between clans just equals out, in that Gojo is not the ultimate force force, and actually it's now a more clan-based power system, in that equally every single clan has a member who, within their own right, could be considered powerful. Because if you think about it, initially Gojo was considered to be a super powerful person when he was young, but as soon as he met Toji, he was no match for him, and ultimately he just survived based on plot armor, but that's just another story. But what I'm trying to say is that Toji, an outcast of the Zenin clan, was able to do something that the other clans wouldn't even dare to think about. And honestly, if you thought about it, Toji could have been the clan leader because of how powerful he was, but he just didn't have an interest in it. Now what about Maki? She's also expressed not really an interest within the clan, but ultimately if there's no one left, the clan could restart with her, a person who's being compared to Toji. So ultimately you have someone who is equal to, or maybe better than Toji in the future, now becoming the head of the clan, ultimately resulting in a character who at least is powerful enough to challenge a character like a young Gojo, who was considered extremely powerful at that point. Then you have a character like Yuta, who also has a very raw potential about him, but he has a super high ceiling in terms of what he can do. And if you think about it, he can start his own clan, and it's been well documented that he is extremely powerful as well. And even Yuji, if he gets to the point where he becomes as powerful just as how Gojo predicted he could be, he could start his own clan or just be another figure of power within the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, and ultimately result in a balance within the universe, in that now the sorcerer system is balanced instead of just being super powered on one clan, which is a bit of a reach, but at the same time I think that that's the possibility because of how skewed the whole main character situation is, in that it's rare to see an anime with so many powerful characters who could be the main character within their own right, but for some reason we keep focusing on Yuji. And I think that ultimately this could be a build up to clans uniting and ultimately beating Sukuna, in that it could end up being a huge war where Gojo just wasn't enough to beat Sukuna, but needed the assistance of these characters who will eventually become the clan leaders of whichever clan they want to start, or clans that had already existed, to beat this great and powerful force Sukuna. So funny enough, for an anime that wants to be super different and is super different, in that Jujutsu Kaisen has been breaking the rules about what shonen is, there's been situations where characters aren't even allowed to power up and then a character just quickly jumps them. It's pretty clear that Gege has a vision that is pretty different and that he doesn't care about following the rules. But funny enough, I think that for him to get to a point where Sukuna, this ultimate force of evil, is defeated, he's gonna have to use one of the most cliche oldest moves ever, in that everybody has to unite, and through the power of friendship, I'm just joking, but everybody has to unite and beat this force. And once they do beat this force, I think that ultimately what's gonna happen is that it's just gonna be a cycle, in that once the sorcerers become super powerful, in that they were able to finally defeat Sukuna, all of the sorcerers that will be left will be extremely powerful, well, in terms of the heads. So ultimately, I think that once that happens, the cycle will just continue, in that the curses will just adapt to the more powerful sorcerers, but now it will be a world that's more balanced. So that could be something that happens near the end. But also, like I said, with this happening, that would also mean that the curses are also gonna get powerful, and ultimately there's a high chance that a character like Sukuna could be reborn. Just as how Gojo was born to basically deal with curses and be this force, I think that an evil generational force like Sukuna will just be reborn, whether it be through a sorcerer who turns evil or whatever. I just think that it's a cycle of power on good and bad sides. So ultimately, the sorcerers will get powerful, the curses will get powerful, but ultimately the scale will tip. And once the scale tips to one side, there has to be an adjustment. So for example, if a very evil force is born that basically outclasses every sort of sorcerer that's there, I think that through basically a sort of weird game of who's the strongest, the ones who remain will have to maybe unite again to beat that force, but ultimately result in them getting way stronger and the next generation being strong enough that that creates an imbalance. And ultimately this imbalance of good will then result in an imbalance of negative, in that that once it gets to a point that all the sorcerers are overwhelmingly powerful because of what they had to deal with in terms of the negative imbalance, then I think that it's just going to reset again, and it's just going to be an endless cycle of power on power. And I think that this is something that Gojo has realized. He understands that there's a cycle of power that will ultimately never end. I think that Gojo's decision to kind of basically say that certain characters will equal him or better him is him talking about the future, in that there will be characters who are way more powerful than him, maybe even from his own clan, and that's due to the circumstances around him. So ultimately, I think that Gojo just predicted a cycle, and I think that even when we reach an end, it's just gonna be a continuation. It may be a big moment at that period, but ultimately, the cycle's just gonna continue regardless of whether the story ends for us or for them.